Welcome to Holistic Health and Healing, a show offering solutions for the body, being, and beyond. In each episode, we discuss topics that empower you to take a holistic approach to step into your unique voice in this world. Now, here are your hosts, Dr. K and Hank Setala, the Sonic Shaman.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome to the Holistic Health and Healing podcast with myself and Dr. K. And today, kind of building on last week from our conversation, talking all about food and kind of with a niche of food sensitivities.
We talked about food last week? I forgot already.
We talked about something and then the food sensitivities came up. I really don't know what. We talked about the immune system and food really became a big part of that. And kind of what prompted this, like I just recently had gone gluten-free and I had just I didn't realize how much it was affecting me. And not long ago, I had gotten the blood test that Dr. K offers that brings back like hundreds of different things that you may have sensitivities to, but not necessarily allergies to.
Right.
And what I was amazed from our last conversation was that you might eat something that your body is sensitive to and you won't even feel the impact for days. So like today's conversation is all about, how do you know if you have a food sensitivity? What might the signs be? What would this blood test do for you? And we're actually going to look at my test results just to give people kind of a flavor for what that is and what information it can really provide to make way better decisions in terms of what you put into your body. And we have Valerie Beck joining us saying, hey, good morning.
Hi, Valerie.
Yesterday, she was all saying, oh, I hope I can catch it live tomorrow. And she already knows that corn is one of her issues and mold. Yep. And, that's another thing when you talk about food, like, is it the corn or is it the corn with GMO? There's like a whole world of conversation just in that. We could have a GMO day. Maybe that's
oh my gosh.
We'll talk about food and GMO. Great. And we have Mary Lee saying blessings. If you're joining us, keep in mind, you're always welcome to ask questions. And I'll let Dr. K talk for a moment, of course, because I gotta get this PDF loaded for my book. It's the last minute to find and download.
Yeah, let me address the corn issue too. So I love corn. I love corn on the cob, but we had this discussion, I think, a while back, like everything's got corn fructose, corn maltodextrose, corn whatever, all these things with corn. That type of corn on the back of the box or jar or container, don't get that because that's not a good thing. That type of corn is not good. The only corn that I would say is pretty safe, good to get is around this time. It's kind of on the tail end already, but July to October, while the farmers have their corn stands going, just ask to make sure that they don't use pesticides on their corn. Majority of them that are wholesome don't. But this is the time to get the corn on the cob is the fresh, sweet corn from a good farmer is probably the corn that you're going to want to get. Other corns and things that are corn chips, Fritos, all these things that are made out of corn, even though they're like organic corn, I still would steer clear or keep that to a minimum. Mold is a separate thing. Don't forget too, because mold actually, not only can it be in your home, and we're getting a little off topic, but you can have the black mold in your shower. That's pretty dangerous. You can have, places where you had a flood in your bathroom and maybe you refurbished it and you revamped it, but it's stuck in so many little places and it will produce spores. Peanuts is another place, and this is a separate test that Hank and I did not do, but I do an environmental toxin test, or it's actually a toxic burden test. So it's bundled. So it will measure mold sensitivities, tests for like 31 different molds, environmental toxins, volatile organic acids and things and toxins. So it's a comprehensive test that tests for heavy metals, toxins, environmental toxins, pesticides, molds, and peanuts actually are one of the biggest things that will have mold in it, aflatoxin A and B. And so I love peanut butter. So I say this with tears in my eyes because I love peanut butter, but peanut butter, if you eat a lot of it, which I have, so I have to run the test on myself because I do that during the show. Peanut butter is like my little treat. Peanut butter can have a lot of mold in it because the peanuts just kind of sit around in the factory while they sift through them and do all their thing. So peanuts is one of those things that we're carrying molds. Molds will be in, dried herbs. It sits in factories for a long time, and that's where the moisture condenses and gets on the food. So it's not only in your house, it's in foods with regards to corn, sticking to we're really at the tail end. I don't know how many stands are still open with farmers' fresh corn, but that's the kind of corn is best to stick with.
And though it's not like Trader Joe's doesn't advertise this, but I believe that they have agreements with all their producers that they have to sign affidavits that they don't have GMO products and things like that. So it might not be, as good as like going to the farmer's market and really getting something local and whatnot, but like a place like that that's committed to minimizing GMO and like organic. I don't believe organic could use pesticides either, but now's the best time, like you said, towards the tail end. And I'm just getting these pictures ready because like I didn't realize like my personal information is like on the top of every single page of this report. So like not that I don't want people like, it's just better not to have it out there.
Well, I can keep talking for a little bit more while you do that.
I'm on the third one now. Well, I just, when you're talking about the mold, though, I know that one of our mutual friends that had one of your biofeedback machine tests done, like mold was showing up on their test. And they had been looking and looking and looking like, where's this mold problem coming from? And it turned out to be the humidifier that they had when they finally had it serviced, and they took out and I remember seeing a picture, she posted it on Facebook or whatnot. It was just like this gross mold thing. Like, so really like the number one thing, if you think you have a mold sensitivity, and this is really relevant for our conversation because all these sensitivities, if you add something like mold on top of it, that's just one more thing that's going to be impacting the body. So like mold is like a common thing in a lot of people's homes, and people never test for it, myself included, probably should. And I know when I was growing up, we had a mold issue. There had been a water leak that didn't get fixed in a timely manner. And just in between the upper level and the lower level, there was like all this water damage, and it had resulted in a mold issue. So like, it's really important for health and everything to know your environment, not just for mold, but for everything.
Absolutely. And my device is so sensitive. So sometimes things will come up. I'll say, well, mold's coming up and fungus is coming up and this is coming up. And people are like, well, I don't know where that could be from. And they can't think about it. And sometimes I'm like, how's your bathroom? Did you have any floods? No. Did you, I try to think of all things that come to mind. A humidifier would never come to mind to me. So that was a shocker. You can hire people to come and do a mold test in your home, and they have a little device that they will, I don't know how they do it, but they have a little device that tests for the mold in your home. And I'm sure it gravitates towards areas where the readings come up really high, and they may be able to find that for you a little quicker. So my device is super sensitive. And it just kind of tells you where the body's overloaded, but sometimes finding exactly where the problem is, where's the mold, where is the fungus coming from, where is your bacteria coming from, what is it that you're eating, taking in, who are you around? Those become the tricky pieces. Nevertheless, we work on taking things off the plate and addressing the issue in the best way that we can. And it's pretty on par with, if beauty shop toxins comes up on my device. That's a very broad topic, and people are like, well, beauty shop toxins, well, what was that? I don't get my hair done. But wait a minute, nail polish, beauty shop toxins, the things that fall under categories like that are sodium lauryl sulfate, phthalates. There's a host of things that fall under that plasticizer. So you can get that from nail polish. You can get it from hairspray. You can get it from makeup. You can get it from lotions. You can get it from shampoos. So that's a very broad topic. And then when we get a urine test, it gives me the exact ones. And then we can start working on inverting and clearing that out. So as Hank said, it's like a plate full of food. And when you keep putting more and more and more and more on, well, that plate can only hold so much. Your body can only hold so much before it tips over in one direction. So we're just trying to start plucking things off and cleaning things up as much as we can, so the body can have a little relief, do the detox that we need.
Not sure if I froze or you froze, or like I froze for a second and there was like silence. So if I froze, I apologize. Or if you froze, I'm sorry. I talked over you. I don't know what should happen. But with allergies too, my son Oliver has a ton of allergies, and we didn't know it as we were discovering he was allergic to all these things. Sometimes he'd be a little sick, sometimes he was a lot sick, and we had stacked, like we were at a birthday party, and he had hummus with sesame oil and pine nuts, and all three things he was allergic to. So like when he ate that hummus, he broke out in hives and all these things. And it's just an example. If he had just had hummus or just had sesame oil or just had the one thing, like he would have been a little itchy or whatnot. But when you stack these things, it gets really potent. So like if by coincidence you go to a party and you eat 10 things that you have sensitivities to, all that stuff can like stack. And that's like where it makes sense that, oh, I just feel blah and I don't really know why. Maybe you're not sick. Maybe you ate a whole bunch of things that coincidentally you had allergies to. Now I did load these things up. This is for my food summary. I don't know, like what thing from the summary would you like most want to talk about first? And I can grab a snippet from that.
Well, I think discussing the difference between a food allergy and a food sensitivity. So that very first one you had up might be helpful to discuss, because people don't know what IgA is. They don't know what IgG is. They don't know what IgE is. They don't know what IG4, C3D are. Those are, I probably won't go into the last two a ton. The biggest, broadest categories are the IgA, IgG, and IgE. I'm going to start with the IgE. And if you notice, Hank has like negative signs down that. If you follow that column down, there's just like negative signs. The negative signs means there's no reaction. IgE, these are true food allergies. The ones where you have shrimp and your throat closes up. You have nuts and you break out in a major rash within a half hour. These are true food sensitivities or true food allergies where somebody has an immediate reaction. That's the antibody, the IgE antibody interacts with that food and people break out, their tongue swells. These are the anaphylactic shock people, the things that they eat that have like a massive response right away, like within a couple hours and you're in the ER or having to take a Benadryl. The IgA and IgG are a little different. The IgA, there's something called SIG IgA, and that lines, that's not on the sheet, but it lines your, it's basically it lines all the insides of your innards, your digestive alimentary tract, so your esophagus, your stomach, your small intestine, large intestine. So sometimes things will come up here. For instance, we'll pick carrot and people are like, well, it says here that I'm okay with carrots, but when I have carrots, I don't feel good. That the SIG IgA that's not on the sheet is your first line responder. That's kind of just, it's an agitator. So sometimes things don't show up on the sheet and they say it's fine when people have a reaction. So I wanted to clarify that. But the IgA and IgG these are antibodies that react as a sensitivity, meaning, and we'll talk about that because there's an emotional component to this as well. But these are things that maybe somebody eats repetitively, like every single day. You can develop a sensitivity to food if you eat it every single day. So these are delayed. These are the areas where somebody's going to have a reaction or not feel good, a day, 2, 3 after. And then the body deals with it, and by the end of the week, you're better. So the IgA and IgG are more sensitivities versus the IgE, which is a true food allergy, like boom, fast response, closed tongue, rash, headache, whatever it is that you get immediately after a food. Although the IgA, IgG delayed responses can have things like a headache, and corn actually can create migraines. It's an interesting thing that happens there. These are sensitivities to things that have a delayed response. So I want individuals to, I guess whoever's listening, to understand that where Hank has these IgA, IgGs, this is stuff that has potentially gotten through the gut lining. People that have leaky gut sometimes, that the food gets into the bloodstream and now the antibodies are like, wait a minute, this doesn't belong in the bloodstream, and they start kind of attacking it. This is what's creating the delayed response. Something that doesn't sit well, something that somebody's eaten multiple times, like eaten chronically, or something that got into the bloodstream that doesn't belong. And the fourth piece is also an emotion. So sometimes when we are really, really stressed, I gave this example, I think a handful of times, is say you are riding your bike and you're eating a banana and you're going along your way and you're eating your banana and you get hit by a car. That's a stressor in the body right away. It's going to associate that food that you were eating with the stressor. And so maybe you try to eat a banana 3 weeks later and you start to not feel good. You start to get a headache. Your stomach starts to get upset. you start to get diarrhea, whatever. There's a stressor in the body, and whatever was going on in the body just attacking everything. So the food has been associated with that emotional stress. So I hope that kind of makes sense.
It does. And I have an example for bananas too. When I was little, my grandmother and I used to share bananas, and she would always eat the ends and I would get the middle. And after she passed, like I really have to be in the mood for a banana. Like I just kind of dropped off eating them entirely. And so like I associated that with a memory and possibly grief and had an aversion to the banana. Like that's just another example of how an aversion or a shift can occur around a food.
Yeah. And biologically, this is how it's going to show up. Biochemically, should I say. I've recently developed I think I'm getting a sensitivity to chicken, because during my whole show, my coach said, you're eating, I always eat chicken during my prep shows and consistently, but I do think what happened is the day of the show, you have certain things that you have to eat, like, okay, eat this now, that this is your next meal. And I was so nervous, and I had to eat the chicken before I went on stage a couple hours. And so now my stomach's not dealing so well with chicken. And I had no problem up to this point. Again, two potentials is I was so nervous, like I had this chicken before I went on stage. Or also I've been eating so much chicken. And even though I pick a very healthy brand, I like Smart Chicken from Heinz. It's probably one of the best, cleanest brands that I've found. But it's not sitting so well with me recently. So something happened there. One of those two things I think occurred. And we'll talk about gluten.
The shows are really, really sensitive, or not sensitive.
Those
shows are really stressful for you.
Very, very stressful. You're on no food. Well, I would say no food, but minimal. You're very depleted the day of the show, and no water the day of the show, and your body's down to almost like hardly any fat. So you can imagine the system is already super stressed. It's working really hard to function, and then you add an emotional stressor like nervousness onto that, and then you add food into it, and it's kind of like, what the hell? So I don't know which of the two it is. I'm giving chicken a little bit of a break, switch to turkey, and see how that goes. But here's a pure example, but this is how it would show up on a biochemical evaluation. So, and you have this is just foods. Somewhere there may have been a sensitivity. This may have been a long time ago. Maybe Hank had agave years ago, and it developed the body, for some reason, it got through into the bloodstream, and now the body's seeing that as a not so good thing, and it's responding to it.
And I know, that does on there. So highly reactive is the red, and then moderate is yellow. Now, where I have cilantro, I never had thought I had any issues with cilantro. I was amazed at what came up on this, but I see that it's IgA and IgG. When something's like in both categories, does that mean it's going to be more reactive or sensitive to the body?
Two different types of antibodies, but probably higher reactivity.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And let me put up the other one. I'll have it up as a picture first, and then I'll get the screen sharing ready so you guys can see us too. Now, this was the second one of the food sensitivity. Actually, this is really the same category, so correct?
Yes, these are just mild reactions. So when you have mild reactions, this is a moderate reactivity, meaning you could probably have a little more of this because your body's not producing a major response to this. So they kind of say, sometimes they'll put these tests in different ways, and they'll say, you can have this like twice a week, completely avoid this, and completely avoid this based on somebody's reactivity level. And then we also did additives. This particular test we chose for Hank had added. It also tested for all sorts of food additives.
That was one of the specific things that I had wanted to test for. And I'll bring that one up next, and then I will get the share ready instead. Here we go.
Oh, BPA, yeah. So don't forget all the things that you eat that are processed.
I know this. I was floored when I saw some of these things. Anyway, continue on.
Not only processed, the things that are sprayed on it. So pesticides are not on this test, but I picked that up in a different direction, in a different test. But we eat so many things that are out of boxes. We go out to eat, and they get things out of boxes, cans, jars, you name it. It will pick up food additives, and my device does also pick up food additives. So food additive toxicities. And there are ways we can detox you from those things. I have a tincture that I use that will detox. So if somebody's got a lot of food additives that they're eating. We got to look at what you're eating, and then we got to detox you, because the body is reacting heavily and probably creating some sort of response when my device picks up food additives in a very high number. So there is a way to kind of clear that out of the system. But here is an example of all the things, or some of the things, that Hank's body is reacting heavily or moderately to, that are processed items.
Now, have you ever seen somebody's test come back that didn't have a sensitivity to things like fluoride and food colorings? And I ask that because most people brush their teeth. Most people are eating like a lot of foods. They just have food coloring, like that. You know, you get fruit cocktail. They got to add red 40 or whatever, so the cherry looks more red when you buy it, right? Yep. So it's in so many things, and all that adds up over time. So it's really common to see those types of things.
Yeah, and they hide things in different ways. Gluten, I want to talk about really briefly. Gluten will affect the thyroid. So if you have thyroid issues or have developed thyroid issues, cut out gluten. We did not check, I don't think this checked for gluten. We talked about it last week. So when I do a GI profile on somebody, there's a marker that I look for that's a zonulin marker, and that is indicative of gluten sensitivity. So gluten has, it's a chain, it's a biochemical chain of different things. So the best way they can kind of measure it is capture a little part of the train. And if somebody's stomach reacts to the zonulin, then they have a very high gluten sensitivity, which will affect their stomach and create leaky gut and possibly create infections. I just tell people across the board, even if you don't have a zonulin sensitivity, just avoid gluten really as much as possible. It's not what it was years ago. 30, 40 years ago, gluten was kind of different. We didn't use the gluten as much. It was safer. Now it's become this mess of stuff that they use. It really bad on the body. And there's a book called The Wheat Belly, and they talk a lot about gluten and what gluten does. So I would steer clear of it. Even if you tolerate it and you don't come up with a high gluten sensitivity, I would just stay away from it as much as possible.
Right. And to speak about gluten, and I think it was the last one, and I did a stream last week with Heather where we talked about body processes. The body and the being are really two separate things. And I intuitively got that I needed to cut gluten out. I was making avocado toast one morning, and my body, I was speaking in energy, but the energy was stop eating that. And so I was like, really? No more gluten? And I cut it out, and my weight just started melting off, and I started feeling, I didn't even know I felt blah before, but I started feeling so much more energized and everything. And so consider for a moment that however you feel, even if you feel okay and fine, what if you could really feel a lot better just by asking the questions like, what does my body require, or what does my body need me to eliminate from my diet? And I find that whenever I've asked my body, the changes in my diet have come very easily. It's not like I'm forcing to cut something out, because I'm asking my body, and we're working together instead of forcing a change on the body that you didn't really commune with it or whatnot. And I know it's really wild, but that's also how I went mostly plant-based and everything. It's just asking the body, what does it require? Or what am I doing to you that you need me to stop doing? Because a lot of times we're just kind of, forcing it on the body and not really including it in the conversation. There is no conversation for a lot of people, because it seems kind of wacky, I know, but truly, the body communicates with us through feelings and energy and everything. And it's really good to start to dial in that ability to communicate and be in communion with the body.
Yeah, thanks for touching on that too, because the other thing, everybody's DNA is different. So one person may react to tomatoes and the other person may not. So there's the back door of eliminating nightshades and eliminating all foods and just reintroducing one by one if you don't want to get a test. Just kind of cutting so much out and reintroducing and seeing how you react. If you don't know what you're reacting to, it's a little trickier that way. But research is great. The unfortunate part about research is they'll test 2,000 people. That's not the whole population. Everybody's DNA is different, and everybody's DNA reacts differently to tomatoes. I may be fine with tomatoes. My neighbor may not be fine with tomatoes. So everybody's DNA is reacting different. Their lifestyle is different. So these tests are really specific for the individual. And so that's why I kind of, if you really, really, really want to know what you're reacting to and what's causing your problem, this is probably the way to go for a more streamlined.
And that's why
purpose.
I chose it. I wanted to have confirmation of what may or may not be my sensitivities. And I'm going to be doing the next one. I'll be the guinea pig for all these tests because I'm like curious for my own, like knowing, like confirming with my body, like what its sensitivities are. You also have one that we look at all the vitamins and things, and we'll be
Yes.
doing, I think that will be perhaps the next one. I'm just pulling up, where is it? Here we go. I just want to show, like, because on this report, in addition to like the values and everything, it has stuff like this where it actually tells you like the food descriptions and like things that you that that are relevant for the foods and things. So it gives you a little bit more information about the foods themselves. I can show you a couple other ones of these.
Yeah, I like this lab for that reason, because they give a nice synopsis at the end when we compile all the information. I can include some printouts at the end like this that gives people a better understanding in case, we talk and they forget they do this for almost every test. Like we can compile information at the end and they'll give you a further explanation of what's going on and why.
Awesome. Is there anything else on the test specifically that because this report is like huge. It's like
It is huge.
It's 55 pages of information, and we've only gone through like a very small amount of it. Was there anything specific that I haven't touched on that would be really relevant?
I don't think so. I think to keep it simple like that, there's just a difference between a true food allergy and a food sensitivity and the reasons why those occur. So it's emotional, overeating a certain food consecutively, or you've eaten it somewhere in the past that it's gotten through and gotten through into your bloodstream through a leaky gut. So along with this, I usually always get a GI profile, because the your gut is really where everything starts. So when we kind of know what's going on with the gut, and if you have a leaky gut, and if you have like small intestinal bacterial overgrowth and all those types of things, that gives us a clue. And then we go on to like a food sensitivity and a micronutrient panel. So we kind of know, why aren't you getting your nutrients? Why are you developing these sensitivities? Hey, look, the gut's not working so good. So It gives us a clue.
And for everybody that might be watching over in a different location than like here in Cleveland, the way that this works is when I ordered it with Dr. K, they send out a blood draw person to wherever you are. They can come to your home. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world. If you decide that this test might be something that you like to do, you can connect with Dr. K. That's what I did. I actually met her at her office because I was afraid she was going to have, I don't do well with needles. You're right. So I did fine though. This lady was great. And we had done some processing work before she came, but usually like if I had blood and stuff and I accidentally see it, like I almost like, I can't even get up, which is ironic because I was able to watch them cut my wife open for a C-section, but here with a little blood vial, I was like, I can't take it. But
when it's you, it's different.
right. But it was virtually painless. They were really friendly, came right out to the office, but they could come to you in Florida or even other countries, perhaps. Do you do international for these things?
I don't do a ton of international, but different states, yes. So the way these work now is the kit gets sent to your house for any of these tests. They hardly really, some companies still send it to my office, but typically Vibrant Wellness, which is the company we used for Hank, they don't even allow me to get it to the office anymore. They send everything to you, and we either get you somebody in your area, or they do have recommendations of labs in your area that you can go to get this particularly was a blood draw because they have to test the blood. But the GI profile, you don't have to get anything drawn. It's just kits. You got to collect some things and just send it off. And everything's done in the comfort of your own home. You don't have to go anywhere. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah, I did notice this one screen this one actually has some numbers on it as well. This looks like most of the food additives and pesticides and things. Could you speak a little bit what these numbers?
Are you able to blow it up just a little? Let me see.
Maybe not.
Oh, okay. These are just levels of, so you have to fall within a certain xanthan gum. Okay. You have to fall within a certain level. And if your numbers are higher than their lab range, then that's why it's lighting up as, a higher moderate reactivity. This is just they test this in a different way. That's all.
Okay. Yeah.
Instead of a minus, they just
notice the actual numbers there. Okay. So they're letting you know kind of how much more, but
okay.
There's all kinds of fun stuff.
They're testing
latex. I'm kind of surprised with that. I mean, how often do you eat latex? That kind of scares me. Like, why is that a food? It's probably an additive somewhere.
It's an additive. Yeah. And it can be, don't forget, sometimes the containers the foods are in, leak into the food.
That's why it's good to get glass containers, probably.
Yeah, and that's why the BPA was on there, because they consider that not an additive so much, but it's a toxin, so to speak.
Right. And that's why with baby bottles and things like that, there's a huge thing. Everything's like BPA free. Like they're really mindful of that when it comes to children, especially because when you're younger, you're probably way more susceptible to all the different food sensitivities.
So that's why they tested a little bit. I saw BPA in your list that you were reacting to. BPA is and most people already know, is an endocrine disruptor. So it acts like an estrogen and it screws up your hormones. So
see, I didn't know what it did. I just knew it was something to avoid.
Yeah, and it leaks into, so you drink your water and the water's been sitting in a plastic bottle for a long, long time. That BPA, or it's heated, say it's on a truck and it's 90 degrees and the truck is delivering that water. That BPA is leaking into the water. Then they take it to the store. Maybe they put it in a cooler. Maybe they don't. But then you're drinking it and you're taking in the BPA.
Wow. And does it, well, I had a question related to that, but now it's kind of just one poof out of my mind.
The magic dragon.
Well, I remember seeing things where they're telling you not to like refill water bottles and reuse them and things like that. Is that related to, or is that for something, a different reason perhaps?
Nope, just don't use any of those water bottles unless you're somewhere where you absolutely have to. I recommend stainless steel, ceramic, or glass, preferably ceramic or glass.
Yeah. Cool. Why not? Why does not metal hit the top of your recommendation?
Well, because there's just this different research. Some doctors are saying, like the paleo doctor, I forget his name all of a sudden. Dr. Wolfson, don't use stainless steel because it's still a metal and metal toxicities. So I'm sure it's fine, but there's different people that are now saying that stainless steel is still considered a metal. So it adds to your metal toxicity. I guess to be really safe, glass or ceramic.
Okay. Well, my water bottle is stainless, so I'm going to keep using it.
I wouldn't worry too much about it. I'm sure it's not so bad.
We've had a ton of comments the whole time. Sorry I wasn't bringing them up, but we had Debbie saying good morning.
Hi,
and
Debbie.
Valerie was just saying, people don't realize how much mold is a problem. That was from earlier in our discussion. Mm-hmm. And that she has a corn sensitivity, and if she eats it, she just feels like crap for many days. And then just tuning in that, yes, emotions are like a huge component. Anne was offering too that the last few years when she eats bananas, she feels like her blood is thick. Would that be an allergy or sensitivity perhaps?
That's hard to say unless I ran the test. I don't think so. It could be the components in the banana, like sugar, can create. It's still a sugar. I say sugar, honey. It's still sugar. That may be creating some sort of, like, what makes you think your blood is thick after you have a banana? Do you poke yourself and bleed, or how do you know that? I guess would be my
maybe
question.
Like where I go with the energy of the blood feeling thick is the feeling of feeling bloated. Like when you, like, if you, like, pasta would do it to me now. Like if I were to eat like gluten pasta right now, my body just like, oh, and just, I would feel like tense or thick or swelled perhaps. And then, we went to Cedar Point this weekend. And I know better. Like the food, this was like the busiest day Sea Point's ever had. Even like the people that worked there were like, what is going on? It was like busier than their Columbus Day weekend. I think because of the weather, everybody went Saturday. So like lines are like astronomically long, like waiting in an hour to get food. I thought Chinese food would be safe, right? So I'm in line for Chinese. And I got up there, like they have like, even the rice is suspect. I got it and didn't realize I had eggs in it. And like, I ate this. And then my body was like, I told you not to. Like, I even knew before I ate the food. I should not be eating this, but I'm like really hungry. And so like I ate it, and then my body was just like, I had pressure inside, like right underneath, like right in my sternum area. And it was just, I felt blah for like leading into the night. I finally did like the special tea that I use when I eat something I'm not supposed to. And it like took the pressure off and everything processed just fine. But like especially if you've avoided the things you're sensitive to for a period of time and then you suddenly reintroduce it, your body will let you know. And,
yes.
I was saying, like it's like, yes, feeling full or bloated after.
Okay. So that's not necessarily, that may be a SIG-IgA response, like it's just irritating the system. So you may be sensitive, I would say sensitive to that food. So I wouldn't say that's an true allergy. That's probably a sensitivity. Your body is either not digesting that well, or it's creating some sort of response with the sugar. Would be my
or
thought.
if the bananas aren't organic and they use pesticides, that like with
It could be
bananas, if
that.
they're spraying something on it, can that leach into the banana, even though that peel is so thick?
It can, probably not as much. I don't think it's on the Dirty Dozen list.
Right. And we've done a stream on that too. Like if you go back in the things, there's like a Dirty Dozen food list, like the foods that absorb the most of those pesticides and things. We go over a whole list of foods to avoid, at least, or not to avoid, but to buy organic and to make sure that they're clean. So you can check that out in the YouTube archive or whatnot.
Yeah, a simple way to think about the fruits is the thinner the skin on the fruit, the easier the pesticide can penetrate.
Right. And it's not something you just want to deskin, because like in apples, a lot of the benefits and the good stuff in apples is in the skin, like, so it's not even something you necessarily want to think of, like just skin it and like buy whatever, like buying organic and having that skin could be really good. Plus they put wax and weird things on it to make it look pretty in the store. So you want to buy it more. And Valerie was saying she uses activated charcoal. I know activated charcoal kind of saved my one friend's life in Mexico when he accidentally ate cherry pits and whatnot. But like, what is activated charcoal? What exactly does that do for you, if you know offhand?
Yeah, activated charcoal is a binder. So it's just a great binder. It will bind all sorts of toxins, but it will also bind vitamins, and it will also bind medications. So it will bind anything. It's kind of
it's not discriminatory.
No, it's kind of like a magnet, I guess. So its goal, and a lot of times these labs will recommend, if somebody has these toxicities, to use activated charcoal to get things out like heavy metals. I use those along with very specific homeopathics for heavy metals, for food additives. So they come in a little vial and they have specific things in there to drain those types of things. So they're more target specific. Activated charcoal is kind of a broad spectrum, but it will bind things and it will kind of pull it out through your GI tract, and you excrete it, we'll put it that way.
And then she says, she takes it opposite anything else. So with that, if you are taking like a multivitamin, it would make sense if it binds to vitamins, like take it on opposite sides of the day, if that works. I don't know how long it stays in your system, because I was reading that some things stay in your system for days. So like even if you stop using something, it might be a couple of days before it's completely out of your system.
Correct.
I don't know, binding charcoal, how long that stays in or doesn't stay in.
It doesn't. It usually binds it and it's out. And they don't recommend using it for more than 4 weeks at a time.
Yeah. And then she was having some herbs. I'm not real familiar with herbs as I am oils and things, but there's a couple herbs that she was saying antifungals. Like in terms of antifungal from an essential oil standpoint, tea tree is amazing. Mm-hmm. And then Vergonia, which is from a bush in New Zealand or Australia, I forget which, they're like extremely antifungal. And like putting those in a cream and rubbing them into the abdomen, bottom of the feet, wherever the issue might be. Vergonia is specifically really good for candida and things like that. When it comes to herbs, it's like a little bit more, like you have to worry about counterindications way more with an herb than you would an oil, because it gets metabolized. And then there's like a whole bunch of other things when it comes to medication. Like one example, grapefruit is counterindicated with Coumadin if you're taking it internally, but if it's an oil applied topically, it may not. So like that's a whole different thing to be aware of if you're ingesting an herb or an oil, to make sure that out of the 350 components in rose oil, is any of those counterindicated with your medication. That's where someone like Dr. K might come in handy, because she might be able to research it. But they consider the ingestion of oils and things like that like aromatic medicine. So it's really good to really research those things well.
Different way of metabolizing. It's not going through the liver quite as much as something oral will.
Awesome. So the great contributions from Valerie. You get like the VIP award for how much you've commented today. I haven't been able to bring them all up, so I apologize. But a lot of, if you guys are looking for Valerie's comment, she's commenting in the Holistic Health and Healing Facebook group, probably, I'm guessing. Or she's maybe on my personal page. I'm not sure. But we stream this to multiple locations. The best place to watch is YouTube, except I just realized I didn't add YouTube today. So it's not.
I was looking. I'm like, I don't see YouTube.
Yeah, it's not there. I was like, I'm streaming everywhere but YouTube. So like normally I'm going to upload this video afterwards to YouTube. So like it will be there, but normally like YouTube at Emergence of Being YouTube channel is a great place to watch, but we're streaming to several different Facebook locations, to Twitter and to Twitch today. So like you can follow us there if you like. And I do, but I remember like to upload these as an audio file to a whole bunch of podcast areas as well. So it's on, like we just had somebody comment on our YouTube channel. They found us through Amazon Music and they wanted to know more more information about relationships. So we're going to have a couple more. Maybe we could have Jake back on and we can have some conversations around sex and relationships. And people always like that, right? So that would
Oh
be
my gosh,
really
that's
good.
funny.
Oh, I can't believe I forgot to add YouTube. Well, it doesn't matter to add it now because most of the people watch us on YouTube. I always say, well, if you're watching on Facebook, like go over, like, follow us on YouTube, watch there because it really helps with the algorithm. So if you want to watch this replay, please look for the Emergence of Being YouTube channel. Watch the replay there, comment, like, and all that. Where did I put this? I had a little thing. Here we go. I'm just going to pull this up. So if you're wondering if you wanted to listen to us, these are all the places where you can catch our show and download it, including, I don't have it. Oh yeah, I do have iHeartRadio. It's on Amazon Music. It's on all these different things. I just sometimes forget to upload it. So I will have a couple episodes to upload that I've been lazy and haven't done yet. But a lot of people are starting to find us on there, so that's wonderful too. Any final questions out there? What else, Dr. K, do you have that you? I mean, we've already gone a lot of different places with this topic. Is there anything that we've missed that is really important for people to know while they think about their questions?
I mean, a lot. Get rid of pop because pop has. I did a whole video. If you go on my Facebook page, scroll through the videos, it will discuss all the food additives in pop that are really not so good. So you'll have to scroll through that because it's detailed. It'll take me another half hour to go through those. Monosodium glutamate's another one that I recently did a video on. If you go on my Facebook page, they hide it. So anything hydrolyzed, I put a whole list on there of things and the ways that they hide it. So the FDA requires that for monosodium glutamate, that if it says monosodium glutamate on the back of like Doritos, I love Doritos, just love them. But if it's 99% pure monosodium glutamate, they have to specify. But or should I say, however, right?
I think but is a relevant thing because it doesn't matter that they say that because now they have 98%. They don't have to tell you, right? Is that what you're about to say?
Correct.
Oh
they won't list it as monosodium glutamate. So your Chinese food, there's a lot of monosodium glutamate in there, but that's probably why you didn't feel good. But I
didn't even think about that.
Monosodium glutamate is a neurotoxin, so it will affect your nervous system.
I just tell about it. If you've been doing so good, let's just eat something that is completely off the charts, like not good for me, and like see how you react. And it's like, not well, stop it, dum dum. But then like with the Red 40 and Red 3 and all that, they came up with little clever names because I was at a local grocery store. I don't want to mention names, but they're relatively known for organic food. And I bought this like pie and everything. I'm like, oh, this looks like great. I specifically looked for food coloring. Specifically, and then I didn't see anything, brought it home, and then when I'm reading the ingredients, this one word stood out. I forget what it was, and I googled it, and it was for artificial food coloring. And they called it something different. They didn't have to call it Red 40 or whatever. And it's a little cutesy name that sounds all legit and a readable thing. And it turned out to be exactly what I was avoiding. So you really got to keep yourself educated. And it could be considered a full-time job, but with the amount we have to eat to live. So I think it's worth taking the time to educate yourself on what you have sensitivities to, what they might call those things, and really do your best to avoid putting those in the body. And you're going to feel so much better if you start treating the body with, care and be in communion with it and not treat it like a thing.
Yeah. And that's, I think, so few final thoughts on the food colorings. In Europe, yellow number 6 and all these yellows and reds and they're banned. They're actually banned in Europe. They don't ban them in the US.
There's some reds that aren't banned in Germany, but if it's in there, they have to put a disclosure on it that it has been found in their research to cause behavioral issues in children.
Yeah.
And so like people, it's like, it's mind blowing. Like what is allowed here and not allowed in other places where they have research that, shows the opposite. Yeah.
That. And so be aware of that other countries are banning stuff and we're not. So we're just making a sicker country. What I would really recommend, and I know it's tricky, and I'm not saying don't ever have a treat, you'll fall off the wagon, but as one thing I learned through my 8 years of bodybuilding is when I prep for shows, it is 1 ingredient items. There is nothing. I mean, literally I have sweet potato, asparagus, and chicken. Turkey, rice, and zucchini. So the rice might have a little something in it, and even when my coach put me on a keto diet for almost 4 weeks prior to the show. So I didn't even have any rice then. I had no carbs whatsoever. And I cannot tell you the difference it made. When I reintroduced rice, when I reintroduced carbs, I felt bloated.
Yeah.
I felt more anxiety. Like it was just like anxiety came back. It was the weirdest thing. So this just tells you the levels of food. So if you can clean up your diet and just do sweet potato, maybe put a little seasoning with some fresh herbs, find a way to cook. And I do have a resource for that. If you're like, I have no idea where to start, I have somebody that can help you cook better so things taste good and you can get very creative. She's great. Jake's mom does that. She has a whole little
cool.
do online.
We should have her on as a guest, maybe.
We should. Yeah,
we should totally do that. We could have, creative cooking, creative conscious cooking, perhaps. We'll come up with
it's called naturalcookery.com. But, or however, I can tell you when I changed my diet for those 6 months, and then after the show, I tear into whatever goodies.
I've never seen, you were a whirlwind. Like she came over to the center for our energy clinic and she just sees the snack table and just starts eating everything. It was so good.
But I can tell you feel terrible. You feel terrible. Yeah. And the clients that I have had that were successful listened to what I said and did change their diet also notice this difference. They're like, when I eat a fried meal, like for a birthday party, they feel terrible. And then you don't even want to eat it. So then you treat yourself every now and then to a little something, knowing that you're going to pay the price after.
Right.
So when you clean your diet up that much,
for sure.
makes a huge difference.
And just one other thing to share, Dr. K totally won that bodybuilding competition. She not only won her category, she took third place in another category. So she took first and third. Or second place, I'm sorry, but but the category of the lower age group, she won her group and she kept placed in the group below her, and she earned that treat, man. I tell you. And she was so desperate for good food, she's sending me messages. She's like, "Could you send me some pictures of food, please?" She called it food porn, and then I sent her.
I call it food porn.
Yeah, I let her borrow our German cookbook, and then she bought one because she was just looking at the pictures, oh, this looks so good. And I'm just gonna make you we'll have a German food night with the German potatoes and red cabbage and some quality stuff. I might even make a roast duck. I won't eat it, but I'll make it for you if you want.
That would be great. Okay, I'll eat it. I don't care. A sauerkraut is great.
You tell me. I'll make something. If you don't like duck, that used to be one of my favorite things to cook. I would make the roast duck, the red, duck. I loved duck. I still would eat duck. I'm plant-based now, but if my body ever that one day says, "Hey, you need to give me some duck," I'll be like, "Yes, please, let's go," right? Because I'm just waiting for my body to tell me that it's ready for other stuff, but it's telling me not to pressure it and to stop asking. So I'm like, okay, I'll just because every day I'm like, "Body, you ready for this yet?" It's like, "No." "Are you ready for this yet?" "No." And then it's finally like, "Dude, I will tell you when you're ready." Not yet. And so I'm like, "Okay, I'll back off." And I'm just chilling. But that's what I mean. Say, listen to your body, because yes, I'm plant-based, but I may not always be. I'm going to listen to my body. And Valerie was saying food is medicine. Food is the main thing that you're putting into your body all the time. So what could you create with your body, with the food that you put into it, that would create a greater set of possibilities for yourself? And if you do healing work and psychic work, things with a lot of potassium are required, like bananas, because you burn through stuff. We would go at Fellowships of the Spirit, where I took my mediumship training. Like I said, I don't really care for bananas all that much anymore. I was eating tons of bananas, and I don't understand why. And then she told us that, the reason that we have all these bananas and you're all eating them is because you deplete potassium and you have to replenish it, because everybody was eating 2-3 tons of bananas every day. It was crazy. Yeah.
It depends on your atmosphere. For the show, my coach had me eat a banana at this such and such time. Because I was on high salt and no water. And so you deplete minerals, and that's not good. You're going to get cramping. So the way to combat that is to have a banana. So all this stuff is strategized a certain way, but also be aware if you're having kidney problems and those sorts of things. We talk a lot about food, but when people have kidney problems, we slowly have to start untangling these things that are going on. And there's ways to help the kidneys out. With somebody that has gallstones and kidney stones and kidney problems, low kidney function, even though kale and spinach are amazing things, those may not be things you can eat. So I have to put that little anecdote in. Please consult with there's somebody else, or they usually give you a list at a hospital of foods that you cannot have, brown rice versus white rice, because kidneys are really sensitive. So if they're not functioning, you can't process a lot of things that have potassium and all these other minerals that are really important for us.
Well, bottom line is know your body, and also recognize that like one diet forever may not be a contribution, because you change every day. Every day you're different, and your body's needs might be different. And the real key is like have the relationship or the creationship with yourself to understand that, hey, today one thing might work and tomorrow maybe I need to shift. The bodybuilding thing is a little different because you got like a target
Totally
in mind
different.
of winning that, and you're just doing what the coach tells you. Like, body, I'm sorry, I'm going to put you
Yeah.
on mute
Oh,
for
yeah.
a little bit, and we're going to listen to the coach. We're going to win this thing, and then we'll take care of you. So don't worry.
That's a different scenario. Don't do my diet. That's not. People always ask me like, well, can you just email me your diet and how you lost that weight? No, I can't, because it's very structured for my body weight, what I'm trying to achieve. That please understand, this is not a healthy state. Those last 9 weeks, the body, you cannot stay in that condition for a long period of time. The body's extremely depleted. So it's a goal to show your muscles. It is not a daily, I've lost weight, fantastic. It is not a healthy state to be in. And I do not stay in that state for all year round. So don't ask me for that diet.
Right. And kind of wrapping back to the beginning that we showed my blood tests and things like that. If you're interested in like really finding out like what your body's sensitivities are, reach out to Dr. K. You can go to emergenceofbeing.com. You can go, if you were looking for her Facebook, I know we mentioned those videos. Her Facebook is Integrated Health Management. And under her profile page at Emergence of Being, it will link you right over to her website as well as her social media, including Facebook. So you can find all the connections with Dr. K there. And then if you don't know where to start energetically, on the first and third Monday of every month, as soon as I get to my little thing here, we have the Energy Clinic, and we do this out of my office at Emergence of Being, and both of us work on you at the same time. They're little 15-minute, or you can sign up for a double session for 30-minute sessions. And I do sound healing and shamanism, and she does pranic healing, and we really just follow the energy, what would create the most here. Sometimes we do a little bit more talking, and I'll do clearing work and release system work, and like really what would create the more with the body. And those are done both in person and virtually. So you can Zoom in or you can come in, doesn't matter where you are. And I just have to remember to check. Like sometimes when a client's not there in time, I'm like, wait, shoot, I should check, was this a virtual one? And that's thrown me off sometimes. So, but we do it virtually or in person. So if you feel called to it, let us know.
Yeah. If there's any final questions I think there's a lot of comments, but
there's been a ton of
question in here. Somebody wants clarification on something. Post in.
Yeah, and if you do have a question and you're watching this on the replay, make a comment, tag myself and or Dr. K so we can see the question, and we can, of course, then answer that either in that or include it in our next live stream. And we might already did we have our topic for next week already? I think we mentioned it, but now I forgot.
We did? What was it?
I don't remember. Does anybody remember what our next topic was going to be? I don't know, but we had it. I just don't remember what it was going to be. But I know we will think about
sex.
Doing, sex and relationships. That's always going to be fun.
Do that again.
Or dealing with family stress. We're coming into the holiday season. I actually I'm going to have a class. It's I don't have it on the Emergence of Being website yet. Oh, but let me look at the calendar because it's good. Well, November 21st, I'm teaching bars. November 5th, I'm teaching a Learn to Work with Crystal Skulls class. But where was I going with this? Okay. On November 17th, I'm doing an online and in-person hybrid class, and it's going to be entities and in-laws dealing with the crazies. It's all about stress, and it's using the tools of access consciousness. So if you want to have, that's right before the holiday, it's like a week before Thanksgiving. So I'm timing it on purpose so to give people tools that they can use if they're going into uncomfortable family situations, that they will have a few tools to help mitigate the stress and the impact of dealing with people that you have to pretend to be something you're not to fit into the box of how they can receive you. So that's going to be coming up too. Oh yeah.
Definite trigger for, I deal with a lot of that. So guys, you don't just come into my office and we talk about food sensitivities, because there's a whole emotional piece to all of that. And that supersedes most things. So we got to deal with, like, chronic gut issues are so much preceded because of the stress you're having at work or family, or it's usually a combination. Almost all of my clients, I have to work on that first before we get into all these. I can give you a ton of supplements, but if you're living with your mother-in-law and you can't stand her and you're constantly stressed, you're not going to get optimal results. We have to kind of find some tools to get that a little bit better so that you can tackle everything. Because if you don't have joy, maybe we'll talk about that too. If you have a lack of joy, the body heals so much slower.
Ooh, maybe that's next week's topic. Healing follows joy. Joy does not follow healing.
Yes, there we go. We decided.
Okay, yeah, we'll have that next week, and then we'll see about Actually, you know what? Next week we might have to pre-record this because I have the facelift class with Heather next Monday.
Okay.
So that starts at 10. So maybe we can. Well, there will be something streaming. It may be pre-recorded, but it will look like it's live. So telling us, right? Anyway, but we'll do that. So that feels like a really good stopping point. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us, asking your questions, participating. And please, I invite you to be a contribution to the stream. And as soon as this is posted on YouTube, because I forgot to stream there, please like the video, share it from there, make a comment. I found out that if you watch the video at 1.5 times speed, it helps our YouTube numbers. So like if you ever want to help us out, like watch some videos at 1.5 times speed, because it creates an improper fraction of time watched or something. I don't know. It's pretty, or no, is it slow speed? Maybe it's slow speed. It's backwards. Like, so if you play it at half speed, it will look like 2 hours worth of watch time on an hour video, and like it inflates your numbers or something like that. I don't know. Someone just suggested that to me. I haven't done that yet. But if you feel like helping out, that would do it. I know. I'm so silly. All right, everyone. Thank you. We'll see you, or not see you, next Monday live. And until then, stay aware. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us today for the show. Holistic Health and Healing is part of the Emergence of Being Contributor Network. Visit us at emergenceofbeing.com for all of our contributors' content and to learn about our services and upcoming events. Please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. You can contribute to the show by supporting our efforts and sharing our content with those you care about and those who need it most.